When I left town for a few weeks, I never imagined I'd come back to find tombstones covering my land like something out of a horror movie. My property, my quiet little slice of peace, was now a full-on graveyard. At first, I thought I was in the wrong place. But nope, that was my fence, my shed, my land, and the homeowners association. They acted like it was totally normal. We had no choice, they said. No notice, no warning, just graves. That's when I realized something wasn't adding up. I started asking questions. Who were these people buried here? Why my land? And why was everyone in the HOA suddenly avoiding me like I had a disease? That's when I found something buried deeper than the graves. Records, files, names that weren't supposed to be there. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a land dispute. This was something bigger. Somehow, in the middle of all this, my name was linked to a federal document. I didn't just own the land. Apparently, I also owned the FBI. Or at least, that's what the records said. Sound crazy? That's just the beginning. Because the more I dug, the more it became clear. Someone had made a massive mistake, and now they were trying to cover it up, one grave at a time. Before I left town, everything was normal, or so I thought. The HOA had always been a bit strict, but nothing like this. I had just taken a short trip, trusting that my property would be just as I left it. But coming back to rows of fresh graves was a shock I wasn't prepared for. I started talking to neighbors, trying to understand what happened. Some said that HOA had been acting strangely for a while, making odd decisions behind closed doors. Others looked away when I asked about the graves. It felt like everyone was keeping a secret. Digging into the paperwork, I found more than just property records. There were strange documents with my name on them, things I never signed or even saw before. Somehow, the HOA had convinced some officials that I was connected to a federal agency, and suddenly, my land was off limits for reasons nobody would explain. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a few disgruntled neighbors or zoning laws. There was something bigger, maybe even dangerous, behind the scenes. As I tried to make sense of it all, strange things started happening. Phone calls with no one on the other end, unfamiliar cars parked near my house, and emails from anonymous addresses warning me to drop the matter. The more I dug, the clearer it became. Someone was trying to silence me, and the graveyard was just the start. What had I really stumbled into? As the days passed, the situation grew even more complicated. I started noticing that the HOA board meetings, which I'd always ignored, were now held in secret, and no one was willing to let me in. One neighbor, who used to be friendly, suddenly stopped returning my calls. It felt like everyone was turning their backs on me. I even found out that some people in the community had signed off on turning my land into a memorial site, but no one could explain why or who authorized it. The deeper I went, the more tangled the story became. Meanwhile, I started researching the federal documents that linked me to the FBI. It wasn't just a clerical error. It looked like some kind of identity mix-up, or worse, a deliberate cover-up. Could someone have used my identity for something shady? I reached out to a lawyer, but they warned me that digging too deep might bring unwanted attention. And honestly, I was already feeling that pressure. Unmarked cars started appearing near my home at odd hours, and I wasn't sure if they were watching me or just trying to scare me off. On top of that, a mysterious email arrived with a cryptic message hinting that the graves on my land weren't ordinary. The sender claimed that the land had a history, something connected to a forgotten case involving missing people and federal secrets. Suddenly, this wasn't just about property disputes or HOA drama. It was something darker, something tied to my own identity in ways I didn't understand yet. And I knew that the answers I needed could be buried beneath those headstones, or lost forever. Every night, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I started sleeping with one eye open, jumping at every sound outside. The graveyard on my land wasn't just a bizarre obstacle anymore. It felt like a trap. I found myself caught between the HOA's strange silence, the mysterious emails, and the federal papers that kept pointing back to me. Each piece of the puzzle pulled me deeper into something I couldn't escape. Then, late one evening, I heard voices near the graves. Shadows moved between the tombstones, whispering in low tones. I wanted to believe it was just neighbors talking, but their words didn't sound normal. Something about protecting the secret and keeping it buried. I tried to get closer, but they disappeared before I could confront them. That night, my phone buzzed with another anonymous message. Stop digging, or you'll join them. The tension was unbearable. I felt trapped in a nightmare, unsure who to trust. My lawyer urged me to lay low, but I couldn't. There were questions burning inside me. Why the graves? What was hidden in those records? And most terrifying, was my identity being used for something dangerous? Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the HOA sent an official letter declaring the land federally restricted, banning me from entering. The final piece fell into place. The FBI connection wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. My land, my name, my life, they were all caught in something far beyond a simple property fight. And then the unthinkable happened. Just when I thought I'd hit the bottom of this nightmare, the second shock came crushing down. I got a call from someone claiming to be a federal agent, a voice cold and serious, warning me to stop all inquiries immediately. But what shook me even more was when they said, "You're not just linked to the FBI. You're part of a witness protection program you never signed up for." I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a prank, but the agent sounded too real, too dangerous to ignore. Suddenly, everything made a twisted kind of sense. The graves weren't just random, they were markers, reminders of people who had vanished because they knew too much. And me. Somehow, my identity had been swapped or hidden under layers of classified information. The HOA turning my land into a graveyard wasn't just vandalism or bad management, it was a warning. A way to keep me quiet, or worse, erase me completely. The tension was unbearable. I was caught between the HOA, shadowy federal forces, and the ghosts of the past buried on my property. I had no idea who to trust anymore. Friends disappeared, calls went unanswered, and the threat of losing everything, my land, my freedom, even my identity, weighed heavily on me. I was running out of time, and the truth was more dangerous than I ever imagined. What did they want from me? And how far would they go to keep their secrets buried? I knew I had to face this head-on. Armed with the few clues I gathered, I confronted the HOA board at their next secret meeting. I demanded answers. Why had they turned my land into a graveyard, and what was this connection to the FBI? At first, they tried to stonewall me, but under pressure, one of them finally cracked. They admitted that years ago, my property had been used as a covert drop site for sensitive evidence connected to a top-secret federal investigation. The graves, they were symbolic markers placed to scare anyone from digging deeper. But the biggest shock came when they handed me a folder, a file with my real identity, a name completely different from mine. Apparently, I wasn't who I thought I was. The HOA wasn't just protecting the land, they were protecting me from a past I'd forgotten or never knew. The FBI ownership wasn't a mistake. It was part of a witness protection program designed to erase my old life and keep me safe. Just when I thought I was finally getting the truth, the unexpected happened. The federal agent who had warned me earlier appeared at the meeting, revealing that the whole story was far from over. The graves were a warning, yes, but they were also a trap, meant to lure out a dangerous enemy who wanted me gone for good. I realized then that the fight for my land was really a fight for my survival, and the real question wasn't if I could protect my identity, but how much I was willing to risk to keep it. After that tense meeting, things started to settle, but the weight of what I'd learned didn't fade. The HOA, once my enemy, became uneasy allies in helping me understand my past and protect my future. The graveyard on my land wasn't just a symbol of fear, it was a reminder of the secrets buried beneath the surface, both in my property and my own life. Slowly, the federal restrictions eased, and I regained control of my land, but with a new respect for the hidden dangers it held. I realized how easily a person's identity could be tangled in something much bigger, how the past can reach out in ways you never expect. My connection to the FBI, the graves, the HOA's actions, they were all pieces of a puzzle about protection and survival. And while the story behind the land was dark, it also taught me that sometimes facing the truth is the only way to move forward. Now I'm focused on rebuilding, on turning this graveyard back into the peaceful place I once called home. But I'll never forget the lessons I learned. Trust carefully.